Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video tutorial, I'm going to be talking to you guys about how you can create your very own login system over sockets by hosting a server-hosted SQLite database file. And we're going to be using sockets to connect the client to the server and be able to actually type in a username and a password and attempt to log in. And we're going to encrypt all of the socket traffic with triple DES. So let's go ahead and get this bad boy started. We're going to need a button. So we're going to need to grab ourselves a couple of buttons actually, because we're going to make the design at least somewhat presentable, right? So we're going to need like that. Let's go ahead and copy that because I'm lazy. There you have it. We're going to name this caption login and this one register. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and drag these on up a bit and try to make this as thin as we can get it. So we're going to need a couple of labels. So let's go with a label. I'm going to copy, paste that. And we're going to put this to user name. And then we're going to put this one to password. And then we're going to try to level those out a little bit. Put these over to the far left. And we're going to need a couple of edit boxes where you're going to be able to type in your stuff, right? So I'm going to try my best to get this lined up just right. Copy, paste. Okay, so now that we have kind of our basic layout for everything, you want to change the password character for this edit box. So if you go down and find password car, change that to an asterisk so it will look like a password when people are typing into it, okay? Now on the form, we're going to change the form's caption to login client, and that's going to be that. We're going to save. And then I have some predefined, pre-saved icons for us to use for all this, guys. So what I'm just going to do here real quickly is go to the forms icon thingy here, and we're going to actually load that up, and we're going to make that equal to the key icon. So now it looks like kind of a little login thing there, right? Then we're going to go to project options. And we are going to give ourselves a nice dark theme. So I'm going to go and find a Windows 11 Impressive Dark. It looks good enough to me, I suppose. And we're going to save it. Now we've got ourselves a nice theme. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to start grabbing and dropping our components onto the form. Since we're done designing it, they won't be in our way visually. So we're going to need a client source socket from the Netcom 7 tab. This is going to handle all of our TCP traffic. And then we're going to need a codec from the Lockbox VCL. And we're also going to need a library from the same tab as the other one, the Lockbox VCL. The codec's cryptographic library, so make sure you've selected the codec one. The cryptographic library must be assigned to the cryptographic library component that you drag and dropped on your form. Now, we're going to set the chain mode to CBC, and we're going to set the cipher to triple DES keying option number 2. And then we are going to save. So we are now prepared, and if you want to get these things out of your way so you don't have to look at them, guys, there's always this option up here where you can get them out of your way so you can work, and then you can pull them back if you want to work with these. So for now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and head into our form create. And in our form create, we're going to set up our encryption key so that everything that gets sent over the sockets is just going to be completely encrypted, right? So we're going to say self.codec1.password, which is basically the encryption key, is equivalent to whatever you want. I'm going to put that big long string of crap in there. Ain't nobody going to be guessing that shit for years. No, I'm just kidding, guys. That could be cracked easily with CUDA cores. But anyway, all right. So that's that. That's the only line of code we need for the on-form create. We're practically done. So now all we have to do is we have to set up the events for our socket and be able to attempt logins and registrations. So, to get things rolling, let's go ahead and do our on disconnect event of the socket. So we'll go to the client source and on the event of disconnected. So when we disconnect from the server, something can happen between this begin and this end here. So what we're going to do is when we are disconnected, we're going to have to make sure that the user basically gets logged out. Like maybe something happened between them and the server, and something needs to happen, right? So before we do that, let's also create another form. So I'm going to go File, New, VCL, Form, Delphi. This will be the logged in form, and on the caption of this form, we're going to put just a kind of a placeholder, if you will, logged in as user username here, something like that, right? I'm going to hit save, and we're going to save unit 2 as unit2.pass. I'm just going to hit save. Not going to rename it or anything, just going to go with basic stuff. Okay, great. So back to this. On the disconnected event procedure, we're going to start programming. So we're going to make us a tthread queue, and we're going to put nil, and then we're going to go procedure, begin, end, and now we can start programming inside of these. This tthread queue method just kind of makes it a little more responsive. It makes it to where things that are going to happen in here kind of happen somewhat in their own thread, so to speak. So here we're going to say that if the form2.visible, now guys, I haven't included the uses clause for form2, so it's going to show red for me. So I'm just going to click run because I'm lazy. I don't want to actually have to scroll all the way up here and add it. So I'm just going to click run, and it's going to give me a questionnaire. Like it's going to be like right here, like, hey, do you want me to go ahead and add this for you because you're too lazy to do it yourself? Yes, I do. So I click yes, and there you have it. So if form2 is visible, so if form2.visible, then I would like to begin doing something. And I would like to say form2.visible is equal to false. We don't want it to be visible anymore. And we also want to say form1.edit1.clear. We want to clear out our username. And then we want to say form1.edit2.clear. And that clears password out. And then we want to say that form1.visible is equal to true. And then, so the login form becomes visible again. Because when you log in, the login form will go away. And when you get kicked off the server or something happens, then obviously it would return you back to the login prompt, right? So now we're going to show a message. And in that message, we're going to say disconnected from server. You will have to log back in. And that's it, guys. That's the entire code for the disconnect event procedure. That's it. So we're going to hit save. We're done with that. Let's go back. And now we're going to go to the code for handling a command. So when we receive commands from the server, they're going to execute in this event. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make a couple of extra variables to play with. So we're going to have data, which is a string. And we're also going to have an SL, which is a T-string list. This is good for string manipulation because you can have a bunch of strings all in a string list, and you can kind of concatenate and parse and delimit and all kinds of crazy stuff you can do with a string list. It's a lot of fun you can have. So we're going to do that. And underneath here, we're going to start programming. So the data is going to be equivalent to the received message that we're getting from these people, right? So what we'll do is we are going to put data is equivalent to a string of data, because data is actually bytes. So we're doing string of a data here. Sorry about that, guys. So data, our variable here, becomes a string of whatever bytes we pulled out of the socket that we just received from, right? So now we're going to say SL is equivalent to a T-string list create. Now we're going to create ourselves a T-thread queue. The reason we're doing this is because we're inside the boundaries of this socket, and inside of here, these sockets kind of have some issues when it comes to ensuring that things happen appropriately with the VCL form graphical interfaces and stuff, because they're running in a background thread. So by doing the T-thread queue, it's a lot like calling synchronize, which means we can actually mess with the graphical interfaces and stuff, like mess with these buttons and edit boxes and all kinds of other stuff, right? Well, we don't really know what all we're going to be doing so far in our commands, so we're just trying to play it safe by creating a kind of a separate thread outside of the boundaries of these sockets. That way, this happens kind of outside the boundaries of these sockets. That way we can have more power and control over what we're doing. That way we don't have errors and crap, right? So we're going to put nil, and then we are going to put procedure, begin, and now we can start programming. So now that we've received the message from the server, we're going to create a string list, we're going to go into our T-thread queue, and we're going to start programming. So we're going to have our string list delimiter set up to be a pipe, and we're going to say strict delimiter is equal to true. That means that if someone were to send me a message and it has a bunch of pipes lined out like that, like really crazy, this won't work. Like it won't allow this crap. It'll only allow one. It's very strict. You see what I mean? So that's kind of what that means, okay, guys? So if I sent a message like hello pipe goodbye, but let's say I did like 2 of these, it would only count the 1. You see what I mean? It's very strict delimiting. So it would count this as that. So like, I'll show you again here. Basically also something else you should know, and if you're already a programmer, you probably get this, but this is placeholder 0, and this is placeholder 1 in the T-string list. So hello is 0, goodbye is 1. You kind of get that? So yeah, so this is kind of how that works. Really cool stuff, right? So we're going to take this example out and continue programming. So you guys probably see where I'm going with that. I'm going to use the placeholder 0 as kind of a command, and then any other parameters after it are going to be like extra data, like messages and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So now that we have set the delimiter and the strict delimiter, we need to delimit a certain text, and that's going to be data, the data that we received. So we're going to say sl dot delimited text is equivalent to our data variable. Now we're going to say if SL0 parameter, like I just taught you guys a minute ago, is equal to success, then this means that this is a command. So if the server said, hey, you were successful in doing something, then we're going to begin and end. So now inside of this, we're actually going to say success is the login success command, okay? So we're going to say self.hide. So hide the login form. Form2.caption will be equivalent to logged in as user. And then we're going to put one of these bad boys and a plus, and we're going to do edit one.text, because that's your username that you typed in, right? And then we're going to do one of these closing things, and that's it. Then we're going to come down and put form2.show. So now you're logged in. See what I mean? And that is a successful login. That's pretty freaking cool, right, guys? Super, super easy stuff, right? Follow me so far? So now what we'll do is we're going to come down here, and let's just go ahead and do an else if, and then SL0 is equal to something else, then begin end. So you kind of see where I'm going with this, guys. You can do many, many different things. So we're going to have about 3 commands total. So I'm going to copy this again and just paste it right here. Okay, and then we're going to erase this last semicolon there, and that will be that. So on this command, we're going to put failed. And as you guys can probably guess, that's going to be a failure message. You failed to log in. And then this one here is going to be, we'll just do register success. Something like that. And also, let's do one more, just while we're at it. Let's paste that, get rid of this last one. And on this bottom one here, this is going to be register failed. All right. So this will be if you successfully log in, if you fail to log in, if you were successful in registration, and if you were, you failed to register because maybe somebody had the same username that you tried to register with, right? Something like that, right? So in fact, we are going to code that too, by the way, guys. So failed, let's say show message. So on the show message portion here, we're just going to put failed to log in, and then we'll do like try again, and that'll be that. Okay, guys, it's just a simple show message, nothing big deal. We're going to go to register success and register failed now. So on registration success means that you were successful in registering your account. So edit1.clear, edit2.clear. We're clearing out the username and password that you registered with, and we're going to show a message. In fact, I'm kind of lazy. I'm just going to copy this show message right here, and I'm just going to paste it. And we're going to change the text inside. So we're going to say registration success. You may now log in. And that is that. Piece of cake. Piece of crumb cake, right? So that's registration success. So now that we're finished with that one, we're going to go down to register failed. So if you fail to register because maybe somebody had the same username or whatever, then we're going to simply have another thing. So we'll just put show message here, and we could clear out these if you'd like. I probably will. So we'll just clear them out again and say registration failure, and then I'll say we're just going to put the user already exists. So that's that. We're going to save that, and that is pretty much it, guys. So in terms of the whole client login stuff, we're just about finished. So let's go back to the graphical interface. We're going to have to log in and register. So on the login button, let's go ahead and do this code right now. So on this, we're going to put if self dot nc client source 1 dot active equals false, which means we're not connected to the server or anything. We need to begin. I'm going to control D to make that nice and pretty for you. We're going to say self.nc client source 1.host, which is going to be localhost. You can also put 127.0.0.1 if you're behind your LAN. If you're outside of your LAN, which means you're on the internet, the WAN, then you're going to want to obviously port forward whatever port we're about to type in next and go ahead and connect to your public IP for the server. Okay, that's how it's done, guys. So we're going to do self.nc client source 1.port. And that's an integer value, so we're going to put 3434 for the port, and then we're going to do self.nc client source 1.active, which is true. This starts the listening process. In other words, it listens on your localhost computer on port 3434, and it waits for connections. And that's it. Now, down below here, we're actually going to send over our information and attempt to log in. Now, before we can do that, we're going to have to write up something to be able to send. Now, we could send a one-liner right there to keep it super simple, but you know what, guys? I'm going to take this a little step further. I'm actually going to create our very own little procedure for sending, if you will. So let's go up to the top of the code, and let's go ahead and add an extra procedure here. So I'll just put mine. Like, let's just do it in private, since just this form's going to be using it. So we'll do procedure and send off request. That sounds good. So then we'll do a constant variable, which is going to be a command, which is a string. And that's it. So now it's going to say unsatisfied or forward. That's because we have to create this down below and write our code in it. So what we'll do is come down below here and say procedure tform1 dot, and as you can see, we can do that right there. And then we're going to go begin and end. So now we can start programming. Okay, guys? Inside of this, we're going to create a variable, several variables actually. We're going to have username, password, encrypted command, because we are going to encrypt our traffic. Remember that, guys? All of these are strings. And now we're going to go ahead and get down and dirty and get it done. So essentially, we're going to put the username is going to be equivalent to trimming the edit1.text field. Then we're going to do password, which is going to be equal to trimming the edit2.text pass field. Okay, so now that we have trimmed those, we're going to also have to do some basic validation. Ensure user has at least input a user/password. So here we'll do if the username, if username is equal to nothing, and, or, we'll just do or, password is also equal to nothing. Sorry about that, guys. I cannot type today. I don't think I can type any day. Then we're going to begin doing something here. This we're going to do show message, and we're going to put please enter both username and password. And that's that. And then we're going to exit this routine. Now, down beneath this routine, we're not done. We're going to continue programming. So we're going to perform a try statement, okay? And we're going to hit enter, and instead of letting it do finally, we're actually going to do accept, and then we'll just come down here and say on E, exception, do, and then we shall go ahead and begin showing a message. Error sending request, and then we'll just do like the message itself, so e.message, and that's it. So now I'll do Control D, and we got to continue our try statement here. So we're going to try to go ahead and encrypt the data we're trying to send, and then send it. So we're going to say self.codec1.encrypt string. Now it's asking for a plain text, ciphertext, and an encoding. So what we're going to do is type command plus a pipe, because we can remember we're sending in pipes, right? Delimited pipes. So pipe, command pipe. So we're sending our command and a pipe, and then we're sending a plus whatever the hell we're going to send, which is obviously going to be our username and then our password. So it's command pipe, username pipe, password, and that's it, right? So we're going to do edit1.text plus a pipe, and then we're going to do edit2.text, and that's it. So as you can see, we've got our command, edit1 username, and then our password. Now, it's also asking for one extra param, which is going to be an encoding type, if you will. So encoding.utf8. We're going to use UTF-8 for this just to keep it super simple and easy. And that is that. So on this portion, actually, I did forget something because I'm sure it's asking for another. I think it wants something here. This is going to be the encrypted command. So we have our actual command that's in plain text. We're encrypting it with triple des, putting it into our encrypted command in UTF-8 format, and then underneath this we're going to send it. So we're going to go nc client source 1 dot exec command. So it's executing the command of 0 bytes of, and then we're going to type in our encrypted command. And that's that. It's going to send this encrypted data over the socket and try to log us in. How cool is that? So we're going to hit save on that. And then we're going to head over to our button one click event procedure. And remember this portion right here, how I talked about how we had to make something to send it? So we're doing this right here. We're going to say send auth request, and it's asking for a command string. This command is going to be login. Okay, and that's all there is to it. So that command to send is login, and it's going to call this, which in turn takes the username and the password, and it makes sure they're not empty, and then it will take the command and the username and password, encrypt them, and it will send it over. The command is a string, which is in the beginning, which will tell the server whether or not we're trying to log in or whether or not we're trying to register. You get it? So really cool stuff, right? So on the button click, we are now complete. Our code is fully complete. Now we have to do registration, which is going to be pretty much the same exact thing, almost exact code. You guys can kind of look and follow along. So again, we're going to say if self.ncClientSource1.active is false, that means the socket is not connected. Then we're going to begin and we're going to connect it. So we're going to say self.ncClientSource1.host is localhost, self.ncClientSource1.port is equal to 3434, self.ncClientSource1.active, and that's that. And then we're going to come down to this, and we're going to say send auth request register. And that's all there is to it. Now we have a fully blown client, and I believe it's pretty much done. So yeah, client is fully complete. We are done. Now it is time to move on to the server. Okay guys, now as I said before, we're finished with the client. Let's go ahead and hop over to the server. So on our server, what we'll be doing, and I've actually misnamed my projects, by the way. I called my client server and my server client. So anyway, what we'll do is start designing our server. So I'm actually just going to call this server. And I'll correct these for you guys, that way you won't get confused. That way you're looking at the correct stuff. So the server is kind of the meat of our application, if you will. It's going to have a little bit more code than just the simple client did, right? Because with the client, you know, you'll execute it and it'll just pop up and it just does a couple of little things, which is to just send login data, register data, and then receive a response and log in. If it logs in successfully, then form 2 will be shown and it'll show your username is logged in, and that's it, right? But the server is a whole different beast. So it's got to have a database, it's got to have encryption for the sockets, and it's also got to have a server socket which manages connections. Now, for our simple example, we're not really going to manage the clients because this is just a simple login example, so we really don't have to manage much. So I'll just cut that pretty much completely out. And I have another video if you guys are curious. If you want to actually manage the sockets, then have a look at my Netcom 7 example that I have on YouTube. It's one of my other videos. I'll link it in the description. It shows how to connect multiple clients to the server and manage them in memory properly. You can give them like nicknames and all kinds of cool stuff and be able to loop through them and properly deal with them. So let's go ahead and just design our server, okay? So let's actually call this login server. Now I want to change the icon. So what I'm going to do is go to my icon, and I'm going to load this up, and let's go ahead and just do this icon for a server, and that looks very sweet. We're going to go to project options, where we're going to apply just a style to work with so I don't have to look at a white ugly screen. So we'll just do the impressive dark like we did on the last one, try to keep it, you know, some consistency here. And then we're going to need us a status strip. So we will go ahead and drag one of these on there as soon as I can type it correctly. Okay, there you go. So I'm going to right click on this bad boy and go to Panels Editor, where I'm going to add one single panel, which is going to be, if you'll notice here guys, it says Panels 0 index. So this will be the panel 0, and I'm going to call this, or the text that's going to reside on it rather, will be users online and obviously it has none because we're not active, right? So I'm going to put I'm just simply going to put users online is 0. Now on this, I also want to make the width 150 just to be safe, and that's that. So I'm going to close that out. And now we're rocking and rolling. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a group box and throw it on the form. And then we will make sure that that goes there. Make sure this comes up. Hold down Alt if you want really good precision with that stuff. Looks really nice. There you have it. Okay, for the caption, let's go ahead and call this server log. And inside of this group box, we're going to throw us a memo. Now we could put a rich edit in there if we wanted icons and a bunch of crazy stuff going on, but this is just going to be text-based and super simple because this is just a tutorial, right? So in the memo, let's go ahead and go to its lines property, double-click, and erase the memo, the text that's in there, and hit OK. So now that we have this, let's save our project, and we're going to start pulling over stuff that we're going to need. So obviously we need a server source, which is a TCP server, basically, more or less. Fully fledged TCP server socket, which is multi-threaded and everything else you can possibly imagine. And I didn't even have to code anything, just drag and drop. I'm lazy as hell. So now we're going to focus on pulling over some stuff we're going to need for the encryption, if you will. So we're going to need a codec, and that comes from Lockbox. And we're also going to need a cryptographic library. Now, if you guys remember, this is the same thing we did on the client, you see? Same exact thing. In fact, I could have just copy and pasted them. As a matter of fact, actually, I probably will. Just go ahead and copy and paste. That way I'll be even extra lazy. There. Now I don't even have to assign the event or the cryptographic library to the codec, because see, look, it's already set, see? But make sure you do this, okay, guys? Make sure you click on the codec, go down here to crypto library, and make sure you hit this and hit cryptographic library 1, so you assign the cryptographic library 1 to the codec, cryptographic library property. Also, you want to make sure the chain mode is CBC, and make sure the cipher is triple desk keying option 2, okay? Now I'm going to pull this down out of the way here. I'm going to hold shift to select all the components, and we're just going to kind of put them right in the center, I guess. Now we're not finished because, remember, this is the server, and we're going to have a place to store login data and usernames, which we're going to use in a SQLite database. So in order to properly see to it this gets done right, we're going to need a way to access and also create said database, right? So we're going to be using FireDAC, which comes shipped with Delphi. So let's go ahead and grab ourselves an FD component here. So I'm looking for an FD connection. This is a FD connection, so that is what I need. And we're also going to need a way to query. So I'm looking for a query component. So there you have it. That is the connection, and that is the query. I will put these right over here. I have kind of a thing where I gotta have them lined up. Okay, so there you have it. And also, let's play Tetris. Here, there you go. All right, one of the beauties of Delphi, you can play Tetris with your components. Okay, cool. So now we've got the ability to be able to connect and query a database and execute SQL commands in that database. We've also got the ability to encrypt everything that goes across our sockets. Also, just as an extra added bonus, I would like for you guys to know the only reason I'm using these is to teach you about lockbox encryption. Because believe it or not, and this might blow you away, believe it or not, these netcom sockets have built-in encryption. You don't have to use external stuff at all. Check this out. If you click on the server or the client and you go to properties, check this out. You've got an encryption key password right here. You can scramble this up if you'd like. Just mash your head against the keyboard, whatever you want to do. It's also got compression. You could have the fastest compression method, the maximum compression method, the default, the fastest. You see that? I'm going to leave it at default. But also on the encryption method algorithm, you can click this down arrow on this kind of combo box thing here, and look how much you've got. You've got triple DES, Blowfish, Cast, 128 and 256 bit, DES, ICE, ICE2, Mars, Misty, RC2, 456, Rendell, Serpent, T, Thin Ice, and 2Fish. I think the only thing they're missing is Blowfish. Oh no, there it is. There's Blowfish. Oh, 1Fish, 2Fish, Blowfish, whatever fish. There you go. You got it all. So these components are just really, really crazy sexy, right? But in this particular case, I do want to teach you guys about Lockbox. So I'm going to go ahead and throw these on here. And we're just going to keep with these rather than using the built-in encryption, which could make things 10 times more easy on yourself. Just make sure that if you do want to substitute that and not use these at all, make sure that you guys have the exact same settings. So compression needs to be the same, the encryption needs to be the same, and the encryption key needs to be the same on both components. Okay? I just want to stress that to you. Okay? So on this one, see for example, I put default, it needs to be none, because as you can clearly see on the server, I've got it set to compression ZC none. Alright, so now that we're past all that, that's great. Let's go ahead and save our projects, and we're going to have to get started programming the server. So on the server side, well, we're going to want to first program the onFormCreate event procedure, which is where we're going to set up our password for our encryption. It's also where we're going to start creating things like the database. We're going to go ahead and set up the server to start listening on a port for inbound client TCP socket connections, and all that good stuff, right? So let's go ahead and click on the form to select it, go to Events on Create, and right here, we're actually going to copy the same line of code from our client, because we want the same encryption password, right? You follow me so far, guys? So I'm going to paste that, and we're done with that portion. So now it's time to try to go ahead and program our database stuff in here. Okay. So in order to do this, we're going to have to have a variable for it. So let's go ahead and make a public, well, we'll just make it a private since we're just dealing with one form. We'll go ahead and make this, we're going to call this fDatabase path, which is going to be a string, okay? And you can just call it database path, whatever. But it's just a string, okay? And it's going to be the path to the database, if you will, okay? So when we do this, we are going to say, let's go ahead and go down the line here and say fDatabase path will be equivalent to tpath.combine. And one thing that you guys may notice is that when you use this type of stuff like tpath, you have to use system IO utils. So make sure up here in the uses you do comma system.io utils. That way you have access to the Windows API and stuff when dealing with tpaths. And as you can see, if you hover over it, tpath is system.io-utils.tpath, which is a record. So now that we've got that working for ourselves, we're going to say that our database path is tpath.combine, and we're going to say tpath.get documents path. This is just a really quick, simple, dirty way to just instantly grab where the user, the logged in user that ran this executable, to find his documents. You know, so it'll be like C users, your username, documents, blah, 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 right? And we're going to put a database file inside of there. So that's where our database is going to be located, right? And now I would like to create a way to log messages to the to the memo, if you will, so we don't have to constantly type the same stuff over and over and over every single time we want to make something go into our memo. 1 here, we should just make a really super simple way to constantly make stuff go in there. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and program our own little kind of thing, if you will. So to do that, we'll have to go to the top of our code, and you see how we have like private, public, all this stuff. Well, basically we're going to go ahead and we're going to put something in there. So it's going to be our log message. So let's go ahead, and in our private declarations we're going to add another. So this is actually going to be a procedure. So it is procedure log message, and we are going to do a constant here, which is going to be MSG, which is a string type. And then we're going to also do yet another constant, which is going to be a message type, which is also going to be string equals info. And that is that. So now, it's going to say this is unsatisfied forward because we haven't programmed it down below yet, okay? Follow me so far, guys? So we're going to go ahead and program it. We're going to say procedure, tform1 dot log message, hit enter, erase this crap at that, begin, end, there you have it. Now we have a procedure that can handle our log messages every time we want to log something to our server's memo. So inside of the log message, if you will, we're going to just simply put whatever we want. So let's go ahead and let's set the memo up to have a vertical stacked scroll bars. So vertical's up and down, and obviously horizontal would be left and right. So we'll do vertical. So it's got this one on the right over here, so you can scroll up and down your log system. Also, we don't want to clutter the literal crap out of this damn thing. If you had say thousands of people logging in, you might not want to have to sit there and go through a million logs. So for our convenience, let's go ahead and do a constant here, and we'll do max memo lines, and that will just be equal to a constant 1,000 lines. Okay, we'll just put it that way. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and create a tthread synchronize here. So if this procedure gets called from within a thread, it's good to do this because we'll synchronize with the main GUI. So we'll say tthread dot synchronize, and it's asking for a thread and a method. Okay, now we're actually not going to give it a thread. We're just going to put nil because we don't actually have any particular call or thread. So we're just going to do us a method, and that's going to be a procedure. And a begin and an end. So inside of here, we're going to start adding stuff to our memo, to our log. And to do that, we want to, whenever you add stuff, you kind of want it to be formatted. So if somebody were to join, you'd want a time and date, timestamp, stuff like that. But you want it well formatted. So we're actually going to go a little deep with this, kind of. We're going to give a simple format string to go based off of. That way, it looks a little more professional. Okay. So we'll put memo1.lines.add. And then we're going to do format, and we're going to start doing our stuff here. So let's do a format of, let's give it a %, and then we'll do another one. So we're going to have another %, and then we'll have a %s, and then we're going to do a comma. And then we're going to do a formatted date time. We'll do year, month, day, and then we'll do for the time we'll do like hour, and then minute, second, something like that. We'll figure it out. So again, for this we're going to type format date time, and then we're going to do something in here. So let's go ahead and do year. Here, I'll just do y, dash month, dash day, and then we'll put our, something along these lines should do it pretty well. And you'll see the output so you guys won't be confused. And we're going to set the time to now, meaning right now. Like whenever this got hit, whenever this goes boom boom and it goes into the memo, we're going to take the T-date time and we're going to format it like this, and it's going to be set to now, meaning right this very second. Now we're going to have to go with a message type and the message itself. And that is that. Okay, so now that we have this, we're not finished quite yet. We're going to go ahead and let's make sure that if we are at the maximum of our memo lines that we've agreed on, which is going to be 1,000, we need to make sure that if we do get to that threshold, we're constantly removing the oldest line, right? So we're going to keep the memo output under control. Something like that, right? So if the memo one.lines.count is greater than that of the max memo lines, then we can do something. And that's going to actually be memo one. Actually, I'll just do this out to the side. Memo one.lines.delete the 0 index. Okay? Now, we're also going to have to think about, well, what if the memo gets full and it gets to the bottom here and it keeps going and we know we can't see it? Well, we want to make sure to auto scroll the memo, okay? Auto scroll the memo. So we're going to auto scroll the memo. We're going to say Windows API send message to the memo one via its handle. Okay, so we're going to get a hold of its handle and we're going to tell it to scarlet down, or scroll caret. I'm sorry, I always call it scarlet. It's scroll caret down to the 0, 0 point at the bottom. So we'll say em scroll caret. And then we're going to do 0 and 0 for the points, and that's that. This one-liner right here will take care of your memo and have it scroll all the way to the bottom every single time we update it, okay? So let's save that, and that is now complete. Now, let's get back to programming our stuff. So whenever the client makes a connection, let's go ahead and do that here, okay? Actually, better yet, let's go back to what we were doing on the create. So we have our database path, okay? So this is where we left off, right? So now what we'll do is that we have the path. We're going to log a message, which is why I just wrote the log message procedure, right? So we're going to say the following: log message, and our message, we say server successfully started on port. And you could put the hard-coded value here like I'm doing, or you could make it, you know, int to string, blah, blah, blah. We already know we're listening on 3434. I'm not going to be a pansy about it. So then we're going to do, this is actually a system command or type of message, if you will, right? That's being sent to the memo. We'll just make it up as we go, okay? So that's a system message. It'll show in the format that is a system message here, right? And then it'll give a date timestamp of now, and it shows for the message type and the message is why we format it like this. So the message goes to this, and the message type also goes to these as well. Okay, and then the date time will show off to the right. Now you guys will totally get it when I fire it up. You'll see what it does. But anyway, back to what we're doing. So what we've done is we've set the password up. We've set the database file to where it's going to be located. That does not mean that it's there yet. We haven't created it yet, okay? Don't be confused by that. But we are going to say that the server is going to successfully start up here. So what we'll do is before that, we have to actually start the server. So what we're going to do is say nc server source 1 dot port, and that's going to be equivalent to 3434. nc server source 1 dot active is equal to true. Okay, and that is going to be it. So let's see if we can make sure to get this all in the correct order. I hate it when stuff is in 2 lines like that. It bothers me. I also hate the line over here. I can get rid of it, but I'll do that later. Anyway, so we set up our password. We set our path. We set our server up. This is actually kind of in the wrong spot. Let me get that out of there. So what we'll do is, for this, we need to create the database and initialize it. We'll do something like that there. I'm just trying to get this through my mind, guys. So essentially, at this point, we'll do a try statement. And down here, except on E, exception. Do begin and Control D. Okay, so on the exception portion here, let's go ahead and try to create the server and make sure we log the message that we did get the server started successfully, blah, blah, blah. And if it fails to start the server for any reason, then we're going to say log message. And remember, it's going to give us our code IntelliSense here, where we had typed, what we can put in there. So we'll put the message as a string, the message type, and that can be whatever we would like, right? So we're going to log that we failed to start server plus the e.message, and this is going to be a type of error message to our log, okay? Now that's done. So on-form create is practically done. Here we do need to create the database and stuff. So let's make a separate procedure to handle the initialization of the database. So let's go up here, and in the private declarations, we're going to do a procedure. I'll make this one super simple, guys. Procedure, and we'll just make like initialize. Here, got to spell this correctly. So now that we have this, it's obviously going to say yet again unsatisfied forward or external declaration because we haven't written it down below. I keep saying that. Guys, I'm trying to get a flow here. Like that way you guys can learn. So I hope this isn't like, kind of out there for you, but it's not everyone catches on quick. So my channel is to try to help people. So that's why I'm taking this super slow. I'm trying to explain everything. So we have to create this down below, okay? So what we'll do is we will come on down here and we will say procedure tform 1 dot initialize database begin end. Okay, so then I'm going to save that and we're going to start programming. So what we will do is say fd connection 1 dot params dot clear in case there's anything in it. We want to make sure everything's cleared out. We're just completely configuring our SQLite connection. Configure the SQLite database connection. God, I can't type. Okay, so there you have it. We're going to clear it out. We're going to do fd and then connection1.params.database is going to be equivalent to the fdatabase path that we set up earlier. Correct, guys? You follow me so far? So then we're going to set the driver of this whole thing to be SQLite. So fd connection1 dot driver name, or driver, let's just do dot params dot driver ID is going to be equivalent to SQLite, because we're using an SQLite little locally hosted file, correct? So now what we'll do is check if the database even exists. So we can simply go if not. So if not database exists, so we're gonna say let's go ahead and we'll just do check data. If not, check database exists. That'll be okay. So we'll make another procedure for that, but just bear with me, okay? So we will log message creating new database file system type of message, okay guys? And then we're going to come down and we're going to say connect to our newly created database. So now that we have checked it, and we'll write this code here in a bit, so don't freak out on me guys, we're just going to finish this up and we're going to write this as it goes, okay? So now we have to connect to our newly created database file. So we're going to try, and on this again guys, I'm not going to use a finally here. I'm going to control D that. So we're going to try to make a connection, okay? So we're going to try to do fd database connection dot connected is going to be equal to true. So now we're going to try to say make the connection connect to our database true. So it's going to try to establish a connection to our database. And then we're going to log a message that's basically going to tell the user we did actually successfully connect to our database. So we're going to say successfully connected to the database, and that's that is going to be a system message. Let's go ahead and take this out because this is actually going to be a basic little thing, not necessarily a system message. We'll just leave it as is. Okay, so now that we got that, let's go down to our own exception and put log message database connection failed. And then we're going to do plus e.message. So it shows the actual message, and this is an error type of message, right? And then we're going to raise, because that's going to be an issue, and we don't want it to go any further. Our application will raise a very serious problem, because obviously if it doesn't get past this point, we can't do socket connections and have people logging in and out, because the database can't even be connected to. Am I right or am I right? So now that we've got that going, we've got a couple of ends here, so we'll just do this. And then down below, we're going to start trying to verify and create the tables. Now, let me explain something to you guys, okay? You have two choices here. I'll let the choice, well, we're going to go balls to the walls. We're going to write this ourselves, but essentially at this point, you have to basically understand that we're programmatically creating this database, okay? Now you've got really two options. You can hard code the database and actually, go balls to the walls deep and make it by yourself, which we're about to do. Or you can, if you have NaviCat, I don't know if you guys can see this. Nah, you probably can. You probably can see. Nah, I guess you really, maybe not. I don't know. I can't get it over there. I'm sorry, guys. But NaviCat, for example, NaviCat is a very simple software to use that allows you to create databases visually on screen. It's just a really cool tool. I highly recommend it to anybody who's interested in doing this database stuff. It's really cool. It just helps you create databases visually. That way you don't have to sit there and write out a bunch of SQL or do a bunch of crap to get a database created or whatever. Now, a lot of people that program like myself, it's nothing to us. Like, not a big deal. Sometimes I'm really super lazy, in case you guys can't tell already. So sometimes I use NaviCat to create the database. But let's go ahead and proceed. In this case, I am going to teach you guys, like, we're going to go straight balls to the walls deep. We're going to do it ourselves. So we are going to have to verify that the users table exists. So we're going to say, and we're going to have another procedure here that handles this. So we'll do, and we still have to do this this to make sure the database exists. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in here in just a minute, okay, guys? If not, so we'll do not again. So if not, create users table. That's what we're going to do to create the table inside of the newly created database file. Okay, so if we're not able to create a users table, then something's going to happen. We're going to have to raise an error. So we're going to raise an exception. Oops, sorry about that, guys. I swear sometimes I just, my hand slips all the time on this stupid keyboard. All right, so we're going to raise an exception, which is creating an exception error message. It gives us a template, but this is not the message I would like to put in there. I would like to put failed. Oh my gosh, my keyboard is typing double characters again. Failed to initialize here. I swear I cannot spell worth a damn. Database, we'll put schema, something like that. Sounds pro, right, guys? Okay, so there you had it. That's going to raise that. Now, if that does not get raised, means we successfully created our users table to hold our users and blah, 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 all that stuff, password, all that good stuff. So, log message, database, initialization, completed successfully. And then we'll just do this, and that's going to be a system type of message, right? So now, let's go ahead and make an accept here. And we'll do, I'll tell you what, let's do it like this. Let's just do accept, and then on E, exception, do, begin, end. And we are going to head on down to this. Let's put this all in an encapsulated try, if you will. So now we've got this to where it properly goes. And there's going to be no finally here. Let's erase this. So let's just go up here to the exception. Okay, so on the exception, we need to give it kind of an overall failure, if you will. So let's say a log message, and then we're going to do, I don't know, we'll just put like database initialization failed, and then plus e.message, and a type of error. That should do nicely for what we've got to deal with here, okay? So then what we will do is also on that try statement at the thing there, we're going to raise an error here because we don't want to go any further whatsoever. It does not need to happen. Very bad idea. And that's it, guys. This is it for initialized database. Now we do have to create these two things, so let's go ahead and do it. So remember, this first one is check if the database even exists. I could have put a simple liner here to just say, look, if the database file isn't there, just make it. But rather than that, like I told you, we're going balls deep. Try to make this a little professional. So we're going to have to make our database exists thing, all right? Our procedure. So this is actually needs to return because if you notice, if not whatever that is, then, and this is to teach you guys Boolean type stuff, right? So if we do not check for database file exists, if it exists, it's true. If it does not exist, it's false. So that means we're going to have to make a function because functions return things. Procedures are ways you can do things. And there are ways, of course, you can make procedures return things too, but it's just, meh. Functions are better for that because it's built in. You can just do it right then and there. So we're going to do a Boolean, check if database exists, and it's just going to be really super basic, and we're going to have a log message and everything for it. So let's go ahead and scroll all the way to the top of our code. And in our private declarations, we're going to make another thing here, but this is going to be a function for check database exists. So we're going to type function, right? And then check database. I think I might be able to actually, oh, never mind, I guess not, exists. And that's going to be a return value of a Boolean. So it's going to be true or false. So now it's going to say unsatisfied or forward, because again, like I've told you, 1, 2, 3 times already, we haven't written this down below. Follow me so far, guys? So what we'll do is we'll have to go down and we'll have to write it. So let's go down here. I will just go right here, procedure, and tform1 dot, and this is going to be, actually, I'm sorry guys, I'm getting tired. It's not a procedure, it's a function, okay? Make sure that you get that correct, all right? tform1 dot, and then check database exists, and there you have it. So what we're going to do under this is we're going to set the result itself, the result of this function is equal to whether or not tfile.exists, and then it's asking for the path, and it's also asking for a follow link, which we don't actually need, so we're not going to include the Boolean at the end at all. We're just going to say fdata base path, and that is it. So if result then, oh well, it's already typed here. So if the result then we're going to log message, and we're going to put database file found at plus fdatabase path. And it's that simple, guys. So now else log message. Oh, and by the way, since we're doing an if then else statement, don't include the ending semicolon there. That way else can continue going through the thing. So we're going to log a message here if it is unable to do it. And we're going to say the file is not found. So database file not found will create new database, right? And this is a system type message, okay? So I'm going to save that. Now, we're finished with this one. Let's scroll down and look at the next one. So as you can see, this one's all good to go. The create users table, very important. So the create users table is actually another function. And again, we did this in the same way. You see how I put if not? So up here where we put if not check database exists, it has a Boolean. So obviously this will be another function with another Boolean return value. So we're going to take this and copy it because I'm lazy. We're going to come right back up here, and you see how we can just basically type function, boom, Boolean, and it's going to gripe at us again because we have to create it down below. It's an unsatisfied forward. That's because we haven't written it down below, okay? Follow me so far, guys? So we're going to come on down. We're going to say function, tform1 dot, and create users table, begin, end. Now, we have to actually create the users table. So what we're going to do is set the result equivalent to, and let me get my mouse out of the way so you guys can actually see what I'm typing here. So we're going to set the result to false because we're starting out not knowing if we've created this table, okay? So we're going to say it's false. We're falsifying it on purpose because now we're going to say fd connection 1 dot exec SQL. We're going to execute a SQL statement into the database, like on the database itself. So we're going to create table if not exists users. And here, let me get that out of the way. So we have to do this. This is going to take me a minute, guys. You gotta make sure that you're formatting this exactly correct. Okay. Now I'm just going to do plus. I'm going to go down. Username text primary key, comma, end, plus. Now we're looking for the password. Text, not null. It can't be null because we don't want the user not typing in a password. They have to type a password. They have to have it. And then we're going to do plus created date time. So this is going to be the created date time that the user was placed into the database. So when they registered and they were firstly created, okay? Default, and then we're going to do current, and then timestamp. And we'll do a closing thing, and then we'll do one of these, and I think that's pretty much good to go, guys. So now we got to close out the actual Delphi one. See, this is an inside string. So this is a string literal that's going to be executed as SQL for the tables to be created, for the table to be created, and the columns to be created. So we're going to create table if not exists users. So if the users table does not exist, we're creating it. And inside of the users table, we're creating a username, which is a text, and it's also a primary key that we'll use to determine if a user exists or not. And then we're going to create password, which is a text, and it is not null, which means it cannot be null. And then we're also going to create a date time, which is a default current timestamp, the current date timestamp that we're actually putting this user into the database, okay? And so, guys, this is not Delphi. This is SQL, you see? So Delphi can just execute the SQL. So now we'll come down and we'll say the result is equal to true because we know that that had to properly execute to get to this line. You see what I'm trying to get at there, guys? Log message. Now we're going to create a new message saying users table verified created. Here, I'll space that out a little bit. Created successfully. And that's that. So now I'm going to go down and say except on E. Also, let's go ahead and encapsulate this in a complete try statement. But before we do that, let's do try after the result is false. So we're going to say result is false to start with. Try the following and accept on E exception and deal with it if there's a failure. So on E exception do let's go and let's do this one more time. Begin and end. Okay, so that's great. And we're going to raise an exception. But before we do that, we also need to log a message just to show a little bit more output to the user. So log message failed to create users table. Okay? And then we'll do plus e.message, which will be whatever message we were given. And this is a type of error in our own little thing that we wrote earlier for the log message, right? Okay. So then we're going to raise an error, so it won't go any further. The application will not go any further at that point. And then we'll just end that out. We're done. Okay, great. So as you can see, now there's no errors in our code, which means we're completely done as far as all that is set up and done with on form create. Let's go ahead and hop back to the form create and just take a look at what we've done. So on the form create, we have the password, the database path. We've set up our server listener and our exception message. Also, we need to call this last piece here of the puzzle, which is what we just got through writing all that stuff for, which is to initialize the database. Okay, so that is that. We are now initializing the database, and all that programmatic crap we just went through to make the initialized database, the checking, the creating the user's table, all that crap, all that is a single line of code down below, because it's just boom, right there. It's going to do it all, right? So now that we have that, that's pretty much it in terms of initializing it. We now need to create some stuff for the actual socket itself to be able to handle connections, disconnections, and commands from the client, right? So let's hop back over here and go to the server, and we're going to do these three right here: on connected, on disconnected, and on handle command. Now, I can tell you straight up that we're going to need a private declaration, which we can just make it a simple integer to keep up with how many clients are online. So we'll just do a public. It doesn't really matter. We'll do clients on the line as an integer. Okay. So let's go ahead and save that, and then come back over here to the socket. On connected and disconnected will be the same, pretty much exact code. So on connected. So let's go ahead and focus on whenever a client actually manages to make a connection to us. Then we're going to have to do something. So we're going to type here, and I'll get my mouse down here where you guys can see what I'm typing. We're going to type self.clientsOnline is going to be equivalent to self.clientsOnline plus 1. Now we have to update the GUI. So we're going to say self.statusbar1.panels0.text is equivalent to users online, okay, and then this plus int to str, self.clientsOnline, and then we're going to close that out, plus, and we're going to create one of these closing things as well. Now we're going to log a message, as you probably guessed. Log message that a user connected from IP address, we'll just do plus a line.peerIP. That's all there is to it, boys and girls. So now just copy this, because these same exact 3 lines of code we can use pretty much on the disconnect as well. So on the disconnect event right here, just go in there and paste. Now instead of +1, obviously someone disconnected, so you'd want to minus somebody, right? And then you can just let that roll. And then on the log message, obviously you don't want to say they connected from IP. Say user disconnected from IP. And that's all you got to do. That's all you got to change. In case you guys are curious or wondering or freaking out about the whole aline.peerIP, if you double click these things, you can see all this stuff light up. You see these procedures for the server socket connected. The sender is a T object, but the person that is currently talking with the socket that fired this event or this event in the first place is a line, which is a TNC line inside of this socket. In other words, this person is responsible for making this event fire. So we have direct access to the socket layer, and we can get that peer IP directly by typing a line and talking with this event procedure. So it's super easy to do. Okay, so we're going to save that. So now we have on connected, we're going to show more people connected. On disconnected, we're going to show less people are online, right? Easy peasy Japanesey. Now we got to go to the server source where we're going to handle commands. Now this is the part that a lot of people get tricked up on, but it's really super simple. So on the handle command portion, we're actually going to create a few variables here. So let's go ahead and do received command. And this will be a string. And then we're going to have a string list. And then we're going to have a decrypted command, which is also a string. Now, now that we're set up with our declarations of variables, we're going to be able to start programming, okay? Now, this can get a little kind of in-depth. It's really super simple once you understand it, guys. But in any case, let's get rolling, okay? So we're going to we have to grab the string data of whatever was sent by the client to us. So what we're going to do is say receive command will be equivalent to string of. This is a really cool thing in Delphi. You can just type string of, and it'll auto-convert bytes to a string. Because as you can clearly see in this function, the A data are T bytes. So the data that you're receiving are in byte format, right? T bytes, they're bytes. So we're going to convert to a string of from A data, the bytes that we received, right? So now that we got that, we can end this line and go down. So now we have the data as a string in memory, and we're able to go through it and do whatever the hell we want. So we need to, obviously, now guys, when we receive it, obviously it's encrypted. We know this, that it's encrypted, because we encrypted it before we sent, and we encrypted it on the client with this long-ass password. It's triple des, right? So unless you're an expert in cryptography, I don't think you want to sit there and crack that shit every time you get a message, right? So we're going to have to decode it and decrypt it. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to say self.codec1.decrypt string, and that is decrypt string. And see, it's asking for plain text and a ciphertext, and it's asking for a TNet coding, or a T encoding, which, if you'll remember, we did UTF-8. So on this portion, we're going to put decrypted command, okay, and then we're going to do received command. So like that. Then we're going to go tencoding.utf8. And that is that. We now decrypted the data that we received successfully, hopefully. So now that we got that, we're going to log a message. And in that message, we're going to say receive command, and then plus decrypted command. And that's that, guys. So now that we've received that, we're going to go SL is creating a T-string list. So like that, and then we're going to, for the remainder of this, because this is happening within the confines of an internal thread system that is used by these sockets internally, we need to be safe, we need to basically synchronize. To do this, I just create a T-thread queue. So queue, and then for this, we're going to do nil, and then procedure var begin and end. So I'm going to create some variables inside of this, just one, and that's going to be the response, which is a string, okay? Inside of this code, we're going to try to do something, and we will have a finally, because we're going to free our string list, okay? However, for now, inside of this try, this is where we're going to do all of our stuff, okay? So we're going to go to, we are going to do sl.delimiter, and that's going to be a pipe, if you'll remember. sl.strict delimiter is true. sl.delimited text is going to be equivalent to the decrypted command. And then we're going to come down and we're going to make some space here, because we're going to start writing out commands, okay? So again, generally, everything that we're doing with this server deals in threes, if you will, like command, username, password, right? For everything we're doing so far. So it makes sense to simply type if the SL0, actually, let's do if SL.count is greater than or equal to 3, then we can proceed. Okay? So if SL0 is equivalent to login, then this is when the user is attempting to log in, okay guys? So let's say we're gonna have to make us a new procedure here for this, for handle login. We're gonna make one for handle login, handle register, and that should be about it. So we're going to go ahead and say if handle their login, so if handle login, and then we're going to pass parameters to this procedure that we're going to make. We're going to pass their user and password. So we'll go SL1 and SL2, and then we can say that response is going to be equivalent to success with a pipe. That's what we're going to send back to let them know if it was successful in handling their login, right? Else, we are going to, let's go ahead and remove that so we can continue programming with an else statement, because we're doing an if then else statement, if you will. So down below, we're going to put Control D. Let me make this a little prettier for you guys. Else, we will do, we can continue going through like different things. So like right now we've got the login. So if it login is successful, else we're going to have to send failed. So the response would equal failed with a pipe. Now, when we come down to this, we want to go ahead and take that off, because we're going to do else if, and I'm going to scroll down a bit where you guys can watch what I'm doing here. Else if SL0 is equal to something else, then we can do something else, right? So we're making commands here, right? We're making commands. You get it, guys? Like that's login. This is register. Okay. So if they're trying to register, so we're going to say for the register, we're going to do the same thing we just did for handle login, except we're going to make a handle register procedure. So if handle register, and we're going to pass SL1, which is their username, and SL2, which is their password. So if that, then response will be equal to register success. So register like that, okay, with a pipe. Okay, guys? Else, response will be register failed with a pipe. All right, and then we're going to come down, and again, you guys probably guessed it, we're going to keep on going. So we're going to do one more thing down here, maybe a couple of things, I don't know, we'll find out. So let's go ahead and put, so we got to make this one and this one. Let's also do, let's do else begin. Let's go ahead and make one for an invalid command and also invalid format, and that should do just to cover our butts, you know what I mean? Response is invalid command, and then log message, and we'll just do invalid command received, and then plus SL0, and this will be a warning type. This is kind of different. We'll just make that like a warning message, like, hey, you know, you got some moron fuzzer trying to send shit to your server. Something like that, okay, guys? And then here, let's Control D that. So now let's also, that'll be the last one. However, we are going to come down here before the finally, and we're going to say to log message again, and this is going to be sending response. This is where we're actually sending the magic response back, right? And then we are going to have to execute the command through the server and send that command back to let the person know whether or not they actually logged in or failed to log in or blah, 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 right? So let me pull this up here, and we'll start programming that just real fast. Okay, so it's going to be nc server, and I'll just do this to make it go faster, .exec command, and we're going to do a line, which is the person that we're currently speaking with in the event, which is here, right? So we're going to do a line. So we're sending it. We're not going to put anything for this param. We're going to send to that person the bytes of whatever's in here, which is our response. And then the last param asks if this is a blocking socket, which we don't want to do that. We want to put false because these are async sockets and they're badass. We don't care about blocking crap. Okay, so there you have it. So that is going to send the response back. We're going to save that, and now as before, as I did before, we're going to code two procedures, one to handle logging in and one to handle registrations. Now, keep in mind, guys, when we're doing this, we're going to be probably writing a little SQL, okay, to execute SQL inside of the database, okay? So let's go ahead and start with handle login. So again, we're going to have to come all the way to the top of our code. So let's go all the way to the top. And right here, we're going to do this probably underneath the private declarations. Let's go right underneath private here and just make a couple of lines blank where we're going to type these in. And I'm just going to try to do both. That way we don't have to come back. So let me think. These are both booleans. They're going to be functions. So we're going to do handle login. We need a constant for a username. We also need a password as a string, and it's going to be Boolean. It's going to return a Boolean value. Now, we're also going to do handle register. So we're going to do a function handle register, which is a constant username, password. These will be of type string, and it's going to be a return value of Boolean true or false. Now, again, guys, it's going to bitch us out because we don't have these down below. Okay, we got to code them. All right, so I'm going to come on down, function, and then tform one.handle login. That's going to be for the handle login, and we're going to go ahead and just make another right here. So function tform one dot, and this is going to be handle register. And there you have it. Now it'll stop bitching us out and say that we did it, but we just have to write our code, okay? So let's go ahead and do the handle login. So whenever we're attempting to log a user in, that's exactly what we're really essentially talking about here. So in order to do that, we're going to have to do a little coding. It's kind of unfortunate, but with SQL, that's kind of the big deal. So what we'll do is for the handle login, we will need a couple of variables because we're dealing also, because guys, I want to make this, before I go any further, I want to explain this, okay? The sockets are protected with these encryption components, so whatever data we send over is encrypted. However, we also want to go the extra step to make our database at least somewhat encrypted. We're not going to encrypt usernames. They'll be in plain text, but just for security purposes and a good explanation and a really good demo for you guys to learn from, I do want to at least make sure that the passwords are, encrypted, okay? With triple des. So let's go ahead and do the handle login here. So again, like I told you, we're going to have to make a couple of variables. So this is going to be stored encrypted password, and this is going to be decrypted stored password. And these are both of type string. So now we can begin programming. Let's go ahead and make some lines here. So we're going to log a message. We're going to say login attempt for user. We're going to do a percent formatter here, if you will, for the person's username. So the username. So this will be a string percent formatter, which just basically prints the person's username. So we'll do user name, and then like this. That'll be fine. So now that we got that, we're going to try. Okay. And this try statement will actually not have a finally, so what I'll do is I'll hit this, and then I will change this to except on exception do begin, Control D, and we'll get down to that later. So let's just kind of let that be for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of this and just program right here, okay guys? So we've created our logging message. We're going to state that someone's attempting to try to connect in. I don't know why this IDE hates me so much sometimes, I swear guys. Okay, so we're going to try to go ahead and clean up our previous queries if there are any. So fd query, hang on just a second here, guys. I don't know why this IDE hates me so much sometimes, I swear. It's fighting me. And this should be an ordinal type. Yeah, it's because I forgot the format. Silly boy. Okay, there you go. Sorry about that, guys. Make sure you always type format when you're dealing with these type of stuff, okay? So fd query 1 dot, we're going to close any previous query that may be open just in preparation for what we're about to do. We're also going to say fd query 1.sql.text is going to be equal to something, and we're going to enter that SQL text. We're going to select password from users where username is equivalent to a tag of username. So that is that. That is SQL. Okay, now we're going to get the param by name as string. So what we're going to have to do is say fd query 1 dot param by name, and this will be username, and then dot string, and that is going to be equivalent to the username. So we're pulling out the person's username. Like, it's kind of like we're locking on to them via their password, where their username is equal to their username, and then we're pulling their string username out so we can play with it. Okay, so then I'm going to say fd query 1.open, and that is that. Okay, now we're going to say here, if not fd query, and I'll do fd query 1 dot end of file. So if it's not at the end of file, then we want to begin, and we want to start looping through our stuff and making sure that we're getting the stuff. So we're going to say get the encrypted password from the database. So we're going to say stored encrypted password is equivalent to fd query 1 dot field by name, and then this is password dot as a string. Okay, so then we've got the encrypted password now. Now we're going to decrypt the stored encrypted password. So we're going to decrypt the stored password. We're going to say codec1.decrypt string, and we're going to do decrypted stored password to the stored encrypted password, and tencoding.utf8. And that is that, my friends. So now we've decrypted the password from the database, and now we're going to compare the provided password with the result password that we're getting. So compare with provided password for authentication. So the result of this entire function is all coming to a halt at this point. Well, at least for this one portion. So the result we're going to put is going to be, the result becomes an equivalency to decrypted stored password equals password. Okay? If result worked that through that, then we will go ahead and put log message. Let's do another formatter. The user %s logged in successfully. And then we're going to do username. And that's that. Else, we're going to do log message, and we're going to do a formatter again. We'll just put login failed for user, and then we'll do another %s, and then we'll do a reason. We'll say invalid password, and then this will be for their username. Okay? And then we'll do a warning. So that's a warning type of message, right? And then we've got ourselves an end. Control D that. And let's go right here. And now that we have that, we're going to type else begin, and we are going to put result is equal to false. Log message format login failed for user %s for string, and then we're going to go invalid. Or I'm sorry, guys. This we already did invalid path. We're going to do for user not found. Okay, so user not found. Okay, and then we'll do for their username, and that's that. And then we will do another. Let's do another warning, and that'll be for that. So now, since we've got the result false, that's going to be for a invalid user not found. And then we will do this. So now we're at the very bottom of everything. We're pretty much done here, guys. So no more freaking out over stuff. The exception is what we're going to be dealing with now. We're going to log message. And we're going to go format login error for user. This will just be like an ultimate error handler exception catcher if all these fail or something bad happens, you know, just in case, just for absolutely in case, you know what I mean? So we'll do S for string, and then we will do another a formatter over here for the error message itself. since this is going to be like, like I said, ultimate error crap or whatever. So just do like that, and then we're going to go username, comma, e.message, and then we're going to close that out, and this is going to be a warning, and that is that. And actually, that's going to not be a warning, guys. Make that an error, because that's not even a type. Like, that's a bad thing that happened, right? Result is going to be false. Now that we've done this, we're pretty much done. We're just going to come down to here, and we're going to do fd query 1, fd query 1.close, and that's it. Okay, guys, so that is that, and let's go to the top of this and make sure I did this right, blah, blah, blah. Yep, it's all good. So that's that, guys. I know, a lot of typing. Oh my God, my fingers are killing me. Not really, this ain't shit. All right, so now we're going to move on to the other portion, which, if you guys will remember, we're going to have to do the, see, this is for the handle login. Now we got to do the handle registration. Okay, so right here, handle registration. Let's go ahead and take that. It's a Boolean return value. We're going to go down to the other bit of code, and we're going to deal with it. So handle registration. Now for this, it's a little bit more simplified. We're going to do only one string is necessary here, which is the encrypted password, which is a string. And that's that. Now we can begin writing our code. So on the begin portion, we'll just set the result like we did before. Same thing. Set the result to false. And then we're going to log message. We're going to format it. Registration attempt is being made for user name, and then we'll do a %s for a string formatter there. And we will do for their username, like so. That's that. Now we can move down to trying some other stuff. So we're going to try some other stuff. All right, so again, for this, guys, I don't want to use this. Except on exception. Do begin, there you have it, Control D. Okay, great. So now we're going to try some stuff here. So what we need to do is basically we're going to have to do the same crap we did down here. Make sure that the, whatever we did up here, make sure that the query's closed. We set our SQL text, and then we're going to do, whatever we need to do while it's not in the file, execute, blah, 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 blah. We're just doing a basic repeat of everything we've already done. But this time around, we're trying to register a user with a username and password. And the password must be encrypted. So we're going to do fd query 1.close to make sure it's closed. fd query .sql.text is going to be equivalent to becoming whatever the hell we're going to put in there to execute. So we're going to do select count, and we'll do of all from users table where username is equivalent to a tag of username. And now that we've got that, we'll go down and we'll put fd query .param by name username .asstring is equal to username. And then we're going to open our query, fd query 1.open. And now that we've got it open, let's go ahead and do if fd query 1.fields, and the 0 placeholder field. So if the 0 field dot as integer is greater than 0, then we will begin logging a message and say that the username already exists. So if field 0 is greater than 0, that means that we found someone inside of there with a username that already was username. You kind of get what that is saying, guys? Like, so like if we're looking through here and we're looping through them all, we're saying that we're going to execute this. Which is try to look through everybody. Okay, it's going to look through everybody, and then we're going to get the username if it exists, and we're going to open this query, which means execute SQL, and we're going to look through everything that returned from the database. If the fields for the username are greater than 0, that means we found somebody that already had the username that they're trying to register with. You get it? So we're going to begin, right? So we're going to say, well, obviously, log message, and I'll do a formatter here again, registration failed. And then we're going to say, why did it fail? Username, and then we'll do %s for formatter, and we'll do already exists. And then we're going to do a format for their username and a warning message, and then exit this procedure because we're not going any further with it. So you guys kind of get that. It is super simple, guys. Like this stuff is this is fun, super simple fun, right? So now get it in your mind that if we make it past this point, that must mean that we need to continue with the registration, right? Because if we didn't find their username in the database, then they can continue to register because obviously that username has not been taken. So what we'll do is we need to, before we go ahead and register them into the database, we need to encrypt the password that we have already decrypted, so we can put it into the database as a secure encrypted password. So here, codec1.encrypt string, and it's asking for plain text to the ciphertext to the encoding. Okay, so password, and then the encrypted password, tencoding.utf8. Okay, and remember, we're using TUNet encoding UTF-8 all the way through our entire project. So just keep it the same, that way we don't make any fuck-up mistakes. You know what I mean? Okay, so now we're going to insert the new user with their encrypted password into the database. So we'll do fd connection 1 dot execute SQL, and we are going to execute some SQL code here, guys. This is going to be some awesome shit. All right, so we're going to do insert into users the username and password with the values of our tagged user name. Here, let me username, comma, and our tagged password. And then that is that. And then we're going to do comma with our username and our comma encrypted password. Should be good. I hope to God I did that right. Okay, and then you want to end that out with a Delphi in syntax thing. Okay, so guys, for this, make sure that you do not put that there. That goes at the end. Okay. So now we can say result is equal to true. Okay? And we're going to log message, format, new user registered successfully. And we're going to put a percentage formatter here for string, and we're going to do a comma and their username. And then we're going to do, this is a success, whatever. That looks good to me. And that's it. And now we're going to come down and do our exception handler, which is right down here. So this is pretty much it. We're going to say that if there's any horrible, terrible, unknown shit that we absolutely didn't know could ever happen in the world, we're going to log its message. So we're going to say format it, registration error for user. We're going to do a percentage string here for a formatter and another percent, which will represent the error. So let's do username e.message and then error. And then the result is equal to false. And that's it. And then we can just go end, save. Done and done. Now at this point in time, I believe we are actually 100% finished, if I am not mistaken. I believe that is pretty much it. So we are going to, without any further ado, fire up the project and see what it does. So let's go ahead and set the position of the server to load up at the screen position of center. Let's save the project, go to the client, and then let's go to that position, which should be right here. And we're going to go to screen center, and we're going to save, and then we are going to click on run. So let's see what happens here. So there's the client, and then here is the server. Okay. Whoa, hang on a minute. I got an error. The SQLite is not registered. To register it, I can drop a component eDriver link, but that actually will not be necessary because I am going to grab another thing here. So let me go back to the code where we go to create, and this is going to be setting this up. So this is combining, initialize the database, and then we're going to come down, say clear database driver, SQLite. This actually needs to say clear. You know, I'm actually a little bit curious here. I think that we don't actually need to worry about this in this way. Let's try to say that the database connection name, let's try seeing if they have like a database based thing here. Let's go. Oh yes, and something else here. Let's pop this back a few. Just put that back the way it was. One thing you'll want to do as well, make sure that on your FD query you set it to where it does not do a login prompt. So like down in here where it has where the L's are on this, make sure that the login prompt is false. Also, one other thing, to driver name, set this to SQLite just to be safe. This is the connection name. I'm not too sure. I think that actually shouldn't matter. No login dialog or login prompt. Make sure those are completely empty because we want Delphi to take over, if you will, for the database connection. So don't let these components control what you're doing. So make sure login prompt is false because you don't need it unless you have a password for your database. And even in that case, honestly, as a really good Delphi programmer, I wouldn't leave this to true because these components have their own GUI interface, which will mess up with your skin, if you will. So leave them disabled whenever you do that. And if you're going to have a password on your database, just manually enter in the password here in code. Obviously obfuscate the crap out of it, but don't leave it as a plain text so that reversers can see it. But just try and do your best, right? I'm going to try to run this again just to see if we get that same error. We are getting an error, but this is params. I'll just copy this so I don't misspell. Let's try running that again just to see if I still get that same error. I think I will. No, I didn't. It looks like that actually fixed it. So again, guys, that login prompt is a very big deal. So here's the time and the info. Database file was found. I successfully connected to the database. Okay, so I actually had a database file already made, I guess, from like previous attempts at running it, I guess, like I just did. So it created it even though we kind of, failed to run that. But I'll leave it there. It's fine. So let's go ahead and run the server. So the server is successfully started on port 3434. Let's go ahead and grab our login client. I'm going to try to log in as user pass, P-A-S-S. So I'm going to try to log in. The list index is out of bounds. The t-string list is empty for the server, not the, that actually is for my client. So let's go back to the client real fast and just make sure that on our handle command, we actually have our data. So the data is here, we're creating our string list, and then we have it going down in here. So I don't know if you guys saw that, but what I had to do was essentially make sure that you're creating your string list outside of the queue, okay? So let's try this again and just see what happens. So I'm going to make sure that my server gets ran. And we're going to try to log in with, I'll just type some random stuff. Try to log in. Oh, wow, I got another error. Looks like the server is out of bounds 0. T-string list is empty. Hang on a minute here, guys. Okay, guys, I corrected a few things. Basically, what had happened was I didn't change any code. The problem was that the database file it was corrupted because of the failed run attempt because of the stupid login thing. And I didn't ensure that throughout the code, I guess it had thrown an error on the screen that, like the one that we said would happen if like anything else fails, like the bottom one did, and it didn't properly create things because the FD connection component didn't actually believe that it had a proper connection, and that threw that error, and nothing, it ended up creating the file, but nothing happened. So therefore, when we try to look at the database and there's nothing there, we could have put an extra check, but we didn't. So the one thing that could have possibly went wrong, it went wrong. But now we should be all good to give it another shot. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and give her a fire up. Also, I corrected the name of the server and the client, so that way the projects aren't so embarrassing. So if I run this, we've got our thing here, and we're ready to watch it roll, and we're going to go to the client. We're going to run this. I did change the theme up a little bit because I didn't figure, like, one should be darker, one should be, like, a little bit lighter. But in any case, let's go ahead and try to log in with our username, which I'm just going to put a bunch of random crap and a bunch of random crap, and we'll see if we can log in. And as you can clearly see, it failed to log in, try again, right? So we're not registered, so we have to register for an account, right? So we're going to do user pass, P-A-S-S, and I forgot to put the asterisk back on that when I change the theme. So let's just try to log in again. As you can see, the server did receive it. Attempt for this user, the login failed. The user was not found, so obviously we have to try again. Let's go ahead and register at this time with user and pass. Okay, and actually I'm glad I took that off because you guys can see the password. So I'm going to click register. The registration was successful. You may now log in, right? So it's just user PASS, right? I'm going to put an extra S just to show that if we try it, failed to log in. If I take that S off and it's just user and pass like we registered with, boom, you log in. See? I'm logged in as user. Beautiful. And if you close out, you'll see that you disconnected from the server and there's 0 people online. Perfect code. There you have it, guys. That is how you write a very basic, could have been even more basic had we just used the encryption that's built into Netcom example of a server socket client TCP connection login with a SQLite database type system. Now, sky is truly the limit with this thing. You guys could go as far as you wanted to because technically speaking, with the Form 2, you could put anything you want in here, like a chat system, file sharing. You could put you could drag and drop like a PayPal component and have people actually pay for membership on stuff. I mean, sky is literally the limit. You guys could literally do anything with this at this point. And if you watch my other video on how to manage client connections with the server, you could really pump this thing up and do some crazy shit with it. But again, that's up to you guys. I will be posting this on GitHub. I might enhance it a little bit to manage connections for you guys, but I may do that at a later time on GitHub. But at least for now, this is a really nice skeleton project for you guys to try to learn all this stuff and get started going on it. Feel free to remove these and use the built-in encryption inside of Netcom. That way you don't have to deal with these every single time. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed, guys. And I'm sorry that this video had to take over like almost 2 hours here. Probably is over 2 hours. But at least I feel I was thorough enough, and I really hope you guys appreciate the time that I take to explain these things to you. I know a lot of you are newcomers and you've got a load of questions. I've probably got 20 or 30 people in different chat applications constantly asking questions all the time. This was a most recent request from someone. They wanted to know how to do this type of stuff. For any of you out there who might be wondering, does this have to be done with SQLite? No, it doesn't. These FireDAC things, they work with just about every database there is in the world. Here, in fact, if you click on the connection here, you see the database name for the driver name. You can change this to any database practically in the whole world. I mean, it's got ADS, ASA, DB2, DS, Firebase, Interbase Lite, Nginx, MongoDB, MySQL, Microsoft Access. Oh gosh, guys, you've literally got so much stuff. It's unbelievable. And for the stuff that this may not have listed, which I don't think it has anything not, but if it did, you can always use UniGUI or UniDAC, UNIDAC. They're a paid component suite, which I believe are even better than FireDAC personally. Also, just so you guys will know, everything here is freeware, so you should be able to download and install every bit of this stuff to your IDE for free. I will post links to everything in the description so you guys can see everything. I will also be posting the links on my GitHub page when I post this project, so you guys can check there or in the description of the video for all this stuff. And another thing, every single thing you see on this form, everything, the whole project can be cross-compiled for Windows, Mac, Linux, probably iOS and Android as well. This socket library is very well made, and I have tested it on Windows and Linux, and I have a friend who recently reported to me that it does work for Mac as well. Now, as far as Android and iOS, the developer of it clearly states on his page that it should, as long as you compile with FireMonkey. So just so you guys know, and FireDAC is cross-platform as well, from what I understand. These components, they have two editions. One is for VCL, which is what we're using right now, and one is for FMX, which is also known as FireMonkey. So you can make these work for cross-platform as well. So just keep that in mind, guys. You can make it work. So for those of you out there who are worried, like, oh man, I don't want to run a server on Windows. Oh, okay, well, you don't have to. You can run it on Linux too, okay? And you don't have to make it a GUI either. You could make it a console application and just make it a terminal-based app on Linux, right? You don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to drag this crap on here. You can code it all 100% from scratch. Well, not scratch. You just include the uses for them and use them, right? So that's why Delphi is rapid. It's extremely fast to develop this stuff. But anyway, I'll go ahead and cut the video here. Hope you guys really enjoyed, and if you have any comments, questions, concerns, whatever, I'm here for you. Just shoot a comment down in the video comment section, and I'll try to get back with you. I try to answer everybody. I don't think there's one single person I haven't at least attempted to reply to. So if you need any assistance, let me know. Be happy to help you out. All right, guys, till next time, peace out. Hey guys, just one last quick thing. I almost forgot to show you this. The username is obviously just in plain text, but the password in the database is truly encrypted. Just wanted to show you that last thing. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next vid. Peace out.